Okay. I'll tell you that story in a minute, but boys and girls. It's 7:30. We'd like to call the meeting to order, May 12th, 2026. All righty. We're going to skip the old business. Well, this is under old business. The planning board to discuss requested changes to the Boston Town Code regarding minimum residential lot sizes. Okay, we were tasked by the town board to discuss proposed changes in subdivision going from a third of an acre, which is R2, to a half an acre, which is R1, basically. Okay. We talked about it for the last two visits, last two meetings. We had some input from the supervisor's office. I sent a document out to everyone. I was misunderstood a little bit about that document because it was correspondences that the supervisor had with various people, but it didn't come directly from those individuals. It was a compilation, just so you know, and I want to correct that. Okay, that having been said, okay, we are not here to discuss drainage. Okay, that's a separate issue. We're only to make a recommendation to the town board what our feelings are regarding this request. The next thing is we are not going to do a motion, only because this is not a formalized application. Okay. All we want to do is make our feelings known to the town board, what we think about the whole process. The town board is free to read what we have to say, and I'm sure they will, and they can act accordingly. So this is just a little bit of a fact finding and a little bit of a back and forth. So we need any discussions from the members of the board. Does anybody have anything before we state our feelings?
I have a ton of stuff,
Go for it.
but I don't know what else anybody else has.
Go
It's
for it.
probably
Okay, only regarding this zoning change
subdivision.
proposal.
Yeah, the cluster homes
No?
and the planning board and our association with the plans for cluster homes and how we can handle that.
Okay, go ahead.
That's probably why I did a lot of reading. It was interesting, and of course I don't have a lot of legalese, but there was and I was just showing it to Gary, because when I went on the website, there's a chapter 103, and it's not on the website. So when I look at the codes, I can't find chapter 103 or 103, but I did find it under local law number 7 from 2007, to which that law added a chapter 103. And it has to do with stormwater and a protection plan regarding the town of Boston.
Not relevant, James. Not relevant to this issue.
Well, I think I thought it was. And this is just my thought, and you could be totally right, Paul. And I thought it was because the concern in the cluster homes is that you are going to put up homes and there's going to be water drainage. Water is a problem in the town of Boston.
Not relevant, James.
Well,
We're not going there, okay? We're making a recommendation to the town board to look at half-acre zoning in all new subdivisions.
okay. Well, from my review of the code, I think we as a planning board, we have a lot more power regarding subdivisions and changing that. And I don't think and my reasoning is I don't think we have to change that. The acreage with the subdivision, from what I've read. Okay.
Can't change
I
it.
think we have a lot of power in addressing stormwater drainage and irrelevant of acreage. A lot of stormwater drainage, protection, neighbors, liability. Chapter 60 went all the way into, chapter 60 went all the way into liability of developers of properties that are around and resulting from drainage of a development they're putting in. And I
Still
think,
irrelevant to the process. Sarah, interject.
But so what I think you're saying is that you don't think that the minimum lot size needs to be increased.
I'm sorry, I can't,
Are you saying that you don't think that the minimum lot size needs to be increased because
we have,
it can be dealt with?
right.
Okay, all right.
And that's where I'm making the argument is that lot size, we don't have to change the town code on lot size. I think as a planning board, we have a lot of power, if you want to call it, in submission of these plans and rejection. And instead of changing the town code route, why don't we use the authority that's giving us in the town code that allows us to do these things? And that's my
No,
point.
I agree with you 100%. The thing is, though, the
And
proposal on the table was things are too crammed up. Things are too close together. Nothing to do, that the drainage was a separate issue
but
overall. And that is addressed by the drainage engineers in the town, and every big project that's done, correct me if I'm wrong, Sarah, that Labella looks at it and looks at the drainage and signs off on it. And unless we're Dave Bowen that knows everything about drainage and nobody else does, we've got to trust what the town drainage people do.
was it? I think it's kind of it's well, I understand where you're coming from on that because it's supposed to be changing the acreage, but I don't think we have to do that given with what we're given under the code in the town of Boston.
To make a viable subdivision with the runoff, with the
Because-
SWIPs, with the speedies, with all of the water runoff controls.
Water and subdivision of land, chapter 104, section 44, cluster type subdivisions. The planning board in its discretion. Now, those words here is hereby empowered to approve cluster type subdivisions, which means in our discretion, which means we don't have to approve it given the lot size or however the developer wants to do that, which is totally irrelevant. We could sit there and tell them, well, on this lot size based on water drainage, stormwater, all this other stuff, we can approve 3 homes. You know what I mean?
You don't have to approve a cluster subdivision at all. You can choose
Right.
whether you want it or you don't.
So the developer didn't even come in with a plan yet regarding how many homes that they have. And whatever plans he comes in, it seems like the planning board in its discretion, we can deny that. And that's our recommendation. So, going back to the town and wanting to change the code in that sense with acreage, I don't know if it's really necessary. And here's all my little
You like those guys.
notes. I was running out of paper and stickies referring to the planning board and what we're allowed to do when we're getting a plan.
They have to.
And on behalf of the individuals that want to change the acreage, I fully understand where they're coming from. In the military, I was telling Gary, I don't know if anybody else is a veteran here, but we have a couple acronyms called SNAFU and FUBAR. And basically, we have a plan for military operation, and somehow it's controlled by bureaucrats back in Washington, and things change. No matter what the plan is, it can change. So in that sense, we're given a plan for a cluster subdivision, and I understand the state says this and the county says this, but they don't live here. It's the same thing in the service. They give you an operation to overtake an objective, but they're not there. It's a great plan, but it changes. And it's just, those things influence my thought process. When I was in practice, a bureaucrat in Albany or in Binghamton or in Washington was telling me what type of treatment I can do to that individual. You're not there. You're not treating the individual. And I understand all these things, but I think the town code does give us latitude on behalf of these cluster homes to use what's given us within the town code. That's, and naturally I would need, again, it's legalese, and clarification of what we can do, but I think we can do things. And I think residents have a right to be concerned. The whole chapter 60 that I mentioned addressed liability of developers. And if I'm sitting there and all of a sudden I'm told, oh yeah, there's going to be no problem with the water, and 10 years later I got a flooded basement, that would annoy the heck out of me. What is the liability of the individual that's putting up cluster homes and this drainage and water? I get where they're coming from. So, that's my proposal or my thoughts. And I have a whole mess of other stuff. We got the letter from Ryan.
Yeah.
I was going to send it to everybody of what I was thinking, but I didn't want to do that because we didn't want to be looked at as having a public meeting.
Public meeting behind the scenes, yeah.
Outside of a public meeting, and I didn't think there was any harm in just expressing these as a public meeting. So that's what I have so far. I mean, I'm willing to share what I have so far, but I don't.
think we get what you're saying pretty clearly. I think that you don't have to increase the minimum lot size to maintain control over a subdivision.
Right. And that's why I felt it was appropriate
Okay.
to the
Okay. I didn't know where
conversation.
you were going around the back door. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah.
Sorry. Sorry. One thing that everybody needs to understand that still, I think some people don't get is that cluster housing is not a given for developers, but an option. And it's an option particular to the individual site. When they come in with a plan for cluster, they have to come in with a plan for a conventional subdivision. It does not change the number of houses. Okay, so let's say they're going to do 64 houses in R2. In a cluster, they're going to do 64 houses in an R2 conventionally. So it's still the same. So if you think about it, the impervious surfaces are probably greater in a non-clustered subdivision because there's disturbing more property, disturbing more ground. Although the runoff, if it's done correctly, is supposed to be not anything greater than what was there before the development occurred. And on that piece of property, that's a no-brainer because there's so much runoff that you just diminish it a little bit. But anyway, so that's the deal with the cluster. But I have a problem with a certain subset of people saying, I don't want clusters, get rid of it, be good. And then there's another subdivision proposal somewhere else where people are going to go, that's our only option? So that is my concern in getting rid of that in the code. Okay.
Well, if it's my understanding that from the conversations the past couple of meetings is they are generally not opposed to cluster homes.
Oh, yeah.
From what I understand,
David?
it's just that the original was that they were going to put in 64 or whatever they were going to put in.
Cluster homes, cluster developments are in our code.
Hmm?
They're under R4, beginning on 123-55. They call them planned unit developments. But it's the same kind of thing as clusters we're talking
It's
about.
not the same thing, David.
Okay. One of the first items in there is under normal circumstances, the minimum required area to qualify for a planned unit development shall be 100 continuous acres.
It's not a cluster subdivision. A planned unit development is different than a cluster subdivision.
It is not-
What was that,
It's
David?
different.
123.55?
Well, then where's the code on clusters?
It's in there. Look at R2.
R2?
Elizabeth, do you have feelings?
I'm using the same outdated.
Well, I have many
old code
feelings,
book.
but in regard to this, so I just kind of have been poking around because the thing that keeps poking its head out to me is that this concept of affordability. That seems to show up in everything. That seems to be one of the things that people seem to be worried about with increasing lot size, decreasing lot size, that and that and that. So I looked over at Eden, at their requirements, and we seem to be in line with them. And I looked over at Hamburg, and we seem to be in line with them. And I looked at Orchard Park and couldn't figure out what the hell they were up to.
Who is a single family residential?
And so if we're in
R2 for
line
development.
with our nearest neighbors,
We call it Eco 360.
I think that that's actually a good thing because we can play off each other if there are issues. My thoughts on making things larger are not that it's a bad thing. I mean, I completely understand that. I live on 60 acres. I have no neighbors. It's a lovely thing. But if people start looking at this whole affordability question, and the larger acreage is seen to make housing unaffordable, my thought is that the friendly folks in Albany decide that they're going to start trying to infringe on home rule and force whatever they decide is affordable housing on places like the town of Boston, Eden, Hamburg. And if I had to pick my battles between increasing the size of a lot now versus having to fight Albany later when they decide that they're going to make us put some sort of concentrated housing development right in the middle of something, I'd rather wait and fight Albany than try and increase this now. A third of an acre brings us into alignment with our neighbors, and I don't see an issue with that.
Sarah, can you mention what the cluster size is in Hamburg?
In Hamburg, the minimum lot size is 5,000 square feet.
5,000 square feet.
Mhm.
Whoa,
Here
that's
it's
like
11.
10, huh?
We're
Yeah.
11.
11.
Yeah.
We're 11.
We're 11.
Right.
Gary? Comments?
I don't like restriction on what builders can bring to us, I guess.
Can you speak into? Thank you.
I have no problem with I would like more options when it comes to what builders bring to us to see. I would like to know if we see a builder come in with a 64 house plan for, let's say, off of Pin Oak. Do we have, as a planning board, the option to tell them, we don't like these lot sizes, come back with 32 homes, and then we'll think about it? Is that
You
a
can
legal
say- you
thing
can
that we
s-
could do?
You can say that, but I think that it wouldn't stand up in court. You can push them, but I don't think you can't force them, because if by law they can put 64 houses up,
But let's say, just on words, with that Pin Oak being zoned the way it was, obviously they would have to go through some type of zoning,
Rezoning of it.
rezoning
you
of
have
it.
to rezone.
All right, property.
Right. And if that was never conducted, then that was probably why they walked. I just don't. The only other question that I would really have is what would happen to the R1 homes that are slotted. There's a lot of area in town of Boston that is labeled R1. What occurs to those homes or lots? Are people allowed to build on those as R1 now? I mean, they are now, but what would the future hold?
They increase the minimum lot size,
Correct.
that would, they'd be considered grandfathered.
Well, R1s are still the same as half acre. It would be R2,
But if it was
R2 and R3. R2 at 20,000
You're
square
saying
feet.
if a lot is smaller than what we now
Correct.
say is the minimum.
Right.
They'd be grandfathered.
So it would be fine.
Now,
Okay.
Just another little thing here, a little tab. 104-5 amendment, subdivision of land. It says, these subdivision regulations may be altered or amended by the planning board in such a manner as the board may deem necessary for its consideration and approval of plats.
That might stand up.
I read that as well.
Jess, what do you have?
All right, well, I wrote something down. So, after reviewing the discussion and considering the town's comprehensive plan, which I was an active member of putting together, I understand the reasoning behind the proposal to increase the minimum lot size requirement for new subdivisions from 15,000 square feet to 20,000 in effort to preserve the rural character of the town. However, at this time, I do not believe a code change is necessary. The current code already provides the town with planning oversight and flexibility while allowing each subdivision proposal to be reviewed on its own merits. I believe there are existing tools within the current framework to address concerns related to layout, density, drainage, and compatibility with surrounding areas without necessarily increasing minimum lot sizes across the board. I also do not believe cluster development should be eliminated entirely from the code. Cluster developments are not mandatory and are reviewed on a case-by-case basis. Keeping that option available allows the town to retain flexibility in future planning decisions while still maintaining oversight of individual projects. While I understand and respect the goal of preserving the town's rural character, I believe the town should also remain cautious of potential trade-offs associated with larger lot requirements, including reduced housing availability, increased housing costs, and less flexibility in long-term planning. That's what I got.
Thank you, Jessica. David, what do you have? Go ahead.
I think nothing more to add. I believe the cluster development thing is being utilized by developers to get around, to essentially increase the profit on their development or decrease the loss, whatever, but to make it cheaper to, I just can't see leaving it to the free to the developer to decide how small a lot he's gonna build. And if we're gonna let him build at less than the 15,000 square feet, all the square feet that don't get used into building developments should be used in developed and maintained park areas. I mean, you can't buy a lot that's half swamp and build on the good half and say the other half is open recreational area. Which the code I just read in this thing.
Yeah.
They can do that.
No, I hear you. I just got something from the town board on developmental recreational funds being offset. Did you get that? So supposedly, for every subdivision, money has to be put away for recreational parts. Okay, but the problem is, the town isn't real excited about maintaining more parks. Okay, the Parks Department says, I don't want to do that. So it's kind of like, wait a minute, everyone in these neighborhoods should have a park, and yet they don't want to maintain them. So in lieu of that, there's supposed to be a monetary exchange, is the way did you read it like that? A monetary exchange to offset not putting a certified park in those areas. What good it does the kids in the neighborhood, I don't think anything, but it's a little bit of a money grab.
That's just another loophole.
Yeah, just a money grab, sure. Okay, so I guess, can you get everything out of the minutes, or do you want us to make a statement? Okay, I'll go last then. Okay, cluster housing, as I said before, is not a given but an option. A conventional site plan must be submitted, and evaluation by the community and the board on the merits of each are considered. Getting rid of this option may present a less than favorable choice on a particular parcel. The number of houses does not change, just the layout. Evaluation subdivisions should be on a case-by-case basis, and keep that option. The town does not live in a vacuum, and at present, with affordable housing being an oxymoron and housing availability being limited, and the recent completion of the comprehensive plan and zoning code submission, they didn't revise the code. They just resubmitted what was already in place, which then locks it in and negates anything in the past that was a controversy. Okay. Timing of this proposal would have better served 30 years ago, and state and county oversight has an impact on what goes on in municipalities. We in a planning board are not privy to the pocketbooks of the town. And the needs and development necessary for sustainable community rest in the decisions of the town board. Zoning codes arbitrarily change that have been on the books for years sets a bad precedent if the only reason it's now in my backyard and I don't like it. It can have a domino effect on the rest of the community's stability, income, and controlled growth. Would it be great to slam the door on all future housing developments? As this proposal would be a step in that direction? Many would say yes. Would it be sustainable and physically responsible to do so? I believe that ship has sailed. So I am recommending to the town board that at this time, the proposal to change the zoning code for subdivision should not be considered.
Paul and Jessica, could you email me what you wrote?
Yeah. And you can get theirs off of,
Mhm.
For that. you good? Any more discussion? We're down to the minutes?
Yeah, I agree with that, Paul.
Okay.
I think we have enough power given to us in the code that we can.
Been working.
That's,
Okay. All right. So we'll put an end to that discussion and move on.
I'll send it to the town board as well.
Okay, good enough. Okay, next, the approval of minutes from March and April. The March minutes we didn't approve last meeting because it was a little bit of organized chaos. So I need a motion to approve the March minutes, and the April minutes are sitting before us. If you didn't get a copy, they're right there. You can take 1 minute to read them because that's all it takes. And then we'll do that.
I'll make a motion.
For the April
Are we
minutes?
doing one month at a time or
Yeah.
both?
No, 1 month at a time.
Okay. I'll make a motion to approve the March 2026 minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, they pass. Another motion for the April.
I'll make
that
a
one.
motion
Okay,
to approve the April 2026 minutes.
Mr. Legal's name will be spelled correctly.
I'll s-
We'll spell your name right next time.
I'll second.
Second that we spell his name or second the motion? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
I,
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Reports, planning consultant?
Nope.
Nothing? I went to a cool meeting today, all-day meeting. It was on safe streets and street development. We could someday have a pathway going along the side of the road here, but it takes years, and at some point in time, somebody's got to get it started. But there are funds available. There's a bunch of grants available, depending on how they set it up. This street is wide enough that they could steal a little bit of a shoulder on one side and make a walking multi-use path on the other side, which would be fantastic. Okay. And it was an all-day affair. The gentleman that did it is from a company, a consulting company in Oregon. He was responsible for the circles in Hamburg and the revitalization there. He was responsible for the redo in East Aurora and cited that a number of times, both of those areas, as being like the way a walkable community should be. And it was just a really, really good thing. So anyway, something to, another arrow in the quiver. Town attorney's not here. Dr. Penders, what do you got for us? Okay, board clerk,
No, I have nothing.
David, you're up, man. Motion to adjourn.
We adjourn.
Okay,
Second.
second, all in favor?
I thought we'd be
Aye.
here till
Any
10
opposed?
o'clock.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
I think we have the power to.
We do, we do, without creating chaos.
As long as what